Good morning to one all present here. Today my topic is about the salivary gland. Coming on to the introduction, it is a multicellular exocrine gland whose secretion flows into the oral cavity. In human beings, there are three pairs of major salivary glands, parotid, submandibular and sublingual. Saliva is a complex fluid produced by salivary glands, the most important of which is to maintain the well-being of the coming on to the composition of saliva, it consists of digestive enzymes such as ptyalin, lysozymes, which is a bactericidal in action, kallikrein, a proteolytic enzyme, lipase, a lipolytic enzyme. The ptyalin function is it involves aids digestion of starch to 1:4 alpha linkages, producing alpha-limiting dextrins and maltose. Lysozymes kills the bacteria. Mucin, it is a glycoprotein. Its main function is it lubricates the food, thus assists mastication and facilitates swallowing. It protects the oral mucosa. It aids speech by facilitating movements of lip and tongue. IgA is the first immunological defense against bacteria and viruses. pH is slightly above 7 under resting state and 8.0 during the active secretion. The functions involves buffers and proline-rich proteins in saliva help to bind toxic tannins and maintain the oral pH at 7. At this pH, saliva is saturated with calcium, therefore teeth do not lose calcium to the oral fluids. Then coming on to lactoferrin, it binds iron and arrests the bacterial multiplication and so also acts as a bacteriostatic action. Coming under the classification, the salivary glands can be classified according to the size as major and minor salivary glands. The major salivary glands includes the parotid, submandibular and sublingual. The minor salivary glands includes labial and buccal glands, glossopalatal glands, palatine glands, lingual glands and von Ebner's glands. According to its secretion is classified into pure serous, pure mucus and mixed. Parotid glands. The parotid glands are the largest of the salivary glands, one each side of the mandible. They lie in a space between the mastoid process and the ramus of the mandible, and they extend below the zygomatic arch. The orifices of the ducts lie on the mucosal surfaces of the cheeks opposite the second molars of the upper jaw. Each parotid is enclosed within a strong fibrous capsule and is a compound tubular alveolar gland of the Seal's type. Parotid is characterized by prominent intralobular ducts. Coming on to submandibular glands. The submandibular glands lie against the inner aspect of the mandible with the ducts opening into the floor of the cavity posterior to the incisor teeth of the lower jaw, adjacent to the lingual frenulum. They are tubuloalveolar glands of mixed type and majority of the secretory cells are serous. Generally, mucous units are also present, but most of these units are capped with serous gemmules. They have a well-developed capsule with fairly prominent duct system. Sublingual glands. They are not strongly encapsulated. They lie near the midline below the mucous membrane of the floor of the mouth and the several ducts open along a line posterior to the orifice of the submandibular duct. They are usually a compound tubular glands of the mixed type. The septa tend to be more prominent than in parotid or submandibular gland. Next, coming on to the minor salivary glands. It's located beneath the epithelium in almost all parts of the oral cavity. These glands consist of several groups of secretory units opening via short ducts directly into the mouth. They lack a distinct capsule. There are 600 to 1000 minor salivary glands lying in the oral cavity and nasopharynx. They are absent in gingiva, anterior half of the hard palate, and the anterior two-thirds of the dorsum of the tongue. Now coming on to the development. During fetal life, the salivary gland grows as an epithelial bud into an underlying mesenchyme. Parotid develops during the 4th week of the intrauterine life. Submandibular develops during the 6th week and sublingual during the 8th week. Parotid and minor salivary gland is an ectodermal origin, whereas the submandibular and sublingual is an endodermal origin. The connective stroma and blood vessels are mesenchymal in origin. The first stage shows the development of the gland with dichromatic branched ducts. The second stage shows further differentiation of the gland with early formation of lobules and canalization of the ducts. This stage lasts till the 7th embryonal month and encompasses the period of formation of the functional units. The third stage begins in the 8th embryonal month and leads to further structural maturation of the gland with acinar cells and intercalated duct differentiation. General architecture of the gland. Now, in this, the gland may be divided into lobes and lobules. The salivary gland is composed of parenchymal elements and connective tissue stroma. Secretory end pieces involve acini, tubules, or tubuloacinar. Ducts involve intralobular, interlobular, and main excretory duct. Connective tissue stroma involves the capsule, septum, loose intralobular connective tissue supporting the parenchyma. Now we are seeing about difference between the serous and the mucous cells. Serous produces thin watery sections, whereas mucus produces thick viscous secretion. It involved in stabilizing dry food, maintaining oral hygiene, and initiating starch digestion, whereas the mucus is involved in lubricating the oral cavity and making the food into the slippery bolus. Serous cells are pyramidal in shape with small in size, whereas mucous cells are short, columnar, or pyramidal in shape with cells larger than that of serous cells. It has spherical nucleus in the basal region. The nucleus and a thin rim of cytoplasm is compressed against the base of the cell. Cytoplasm shows accumulation of secretory granules known as zymogen granules, whereas in mucous cells shows accumulation of large amounts of secretory products at the apical cytoplasm. The basal cytoplasm is packed with parallelly stacked ribosomes studded rough endoplasmic reticulum. In mucus, it is limited to a narrow band of cytoplasm along the base and lateral borders of the cell. The Golgi apparatus is a membranous cistern of several stacks of 4 to 6 smooth surface sacules located apically and laterally to the cell. The Golgi apparatus is large, consisting of several stacks, 10 to 12 sacules. In this serous, it is stained dark due to the presence of zymogen granules. Now, this mucus is stained light due to the presence of mucin. The cells serous, the cells contain dispersed chromatin, whereas in mucus, the cells contains condensed chromatin. In serous, there are larger ducts, whereas in mucus, it consists of smaller striations. Now coming on to the myoepithelial cells. Myoepithelial cells are closely related to the secretory and intercalated duct cells. They are stellate or spider-like with flattened nucleus, scanty perinuclear cytoplasm, and long branching processes that embrace the secretory and duct cells. Their appearance is the reminiscent of the basket cradling the secretory unit, hence the term basket cells. They lie between the basement membrane of the parenchyma cells and are attached to the cells by the desmosomes. They contain cytokeratin intermediate filament and contractile actin filaments. The structure of the myoepithelial cells is similar to that of the smooth muscles. Immunofluorescence studies indicate the presence of myosin, actin, and related proteins. The myoepithelial cells accelerate the initial outflow of saliva from the acini. They reduce the luminal flow. The intercalated ducts may shorten and widen the ducts, helping to maintain their patency. Then it also helps to support the underlying parenchyma and reduce the back permeation of the fluid. Coming on to the ducts. The ductal system of salivary gland consists of hollow tubes connected initially with the acinus and then with the other ducts. As the ducts progressively grow larger from the inner to the outer portion of the gland. The ductal system participates in the production and the modification of saliva. In a salivary gland, the smallest ducts are the intercalated ducts and the connecting terminal excretory units to the next larger duct. The ductal system is named according to the location, whereas the lobule called intralobular ducts, some are interlobular within the connective tissue. There are two types of intralobular ducts. They are the intercalated ducts and striated ducts. The excretory ducts are intercalated ducts. The intercalated ducts are lined by a single layer of low cuboidal cells with relatively empty appearing cytoplasm. A small amount of rough endoplasmic reticulum is located in the basal cytoplasm and Golgi apparatus found apically. The intercalated ducts contribute to the macromolecular components like lysozymes, lactoferrin, and some unknown components to the saliva. These are stored in secretory granules of the cell. Striated ducts receive saliva from the intercalated ducts. They form the largest portion of the duct system, constituting the intralobular component. It is lined by tall columnar cells with large spherical and centrally placed nuclei. The cytoplasm is abundant and eosinophilic and shows prominent striations at the basal end of the cell. The site of electrolytic resorption is especially sodium and chloride and secretion of potassium and bicarbonate. They can also modify the organic content of the saliva. These senses and secrete glycoproteins such as kallikrein and epidermal growth factors. Coming on to the excretory duct. The salivary fluid is excreted into the oral cavity through the terminal excretory ducts, which is lined by pseudostratified epithelium consisting of tall columns. The ductal epithelium shows slowly undergoing transition to stratified, cuboidal, and finally to stratified squamous epithelium. Duct or brush cells with long stiff microvilli and apical cells are seen. Then other cells such as dendritic cells and antigen presenting cells are also seen. These are involved in processing and presentation of foreign antigens to T lymphocytes. The connective tissue elements involve some fibroblasts, macrophages, mast cells, leukocytes, fat cells, and plasma cells. Collagen and reticular fibers are embedded in the ground substance composed of proteoglycans and glycoproteins. The septa contains blood vessels and nerves that supply the parenchymal components. The plasma cell produce immunoglobulins that are secreted into the saliva by transcytosis. Now coming to the mechanism of cellular secretion, the acinar cells secrete potassium and bicarbonate by active process into the acinar lumen, which is accompanied by sufficient chloride. To preserve electrical neutrality simultaneously, passage of water into acinar lumen makes this primary secretion isotonic. The salivary duct cells, which drain the acini, have rich blood supply. Therefore, they actively reabsorb sodium and chloride and transfer some potassium and bicarbonate into the saliva. The duct cells, being impermeable to water, make the final secretion hypertonic. At rest, saliva contains more of potassium and less of sodium, chloride, and bicarbonate compared to the plasma concentrations. As salivary flow increases, there is less time for ion exchange in the ducts as a result of saliva, which becomes less hypertonic. Sodium, chloride, and bicarbonate concentration increases, and potassium concentration decreases. The control of salivary secretion. Stimulation of parasympathetic nerves liberates a proteolytic enzyme kallikrein from the gland cells, which acts on plasma alpha-2 globulin in interstitial fluid. The effect is mediated by acetylcholine. This produces vasodilatation of blood vessels of salivary glands and stimulates the secretion from acini. Therefore, it causes profuse secretion of watery saliva and relatively lower content of organic material and protein. Stimulation of sympathetic nerve supply causes secretion of small amount of saliva rich in organic constituents and mucus from submandibular and sublingual glands. Sympathetic fibers innervate the serous cells of the glands and have no effect on the parotid gland. Thank you.